Right now, there is an ocean inside your skull. Not a metaphor, not a figure of speech. A real, measurable, moving body of water. And your brain is floating in it. Right now, as you listen to this. And the strangest part? The Bible may have known that. Centuries before anyone owned a microscope. I'm going to show you exactly where that water is, and why the most famous miracle in the New Testament was quietly describing it the entire time. Everyone knows the story. A boat, a storm, men terrified, certain they're about to die, and a figure walking toward them on top of the water. You've heard it preached as proof. Proof he could break the rules of nature. A party trick with cosmic stakes. But nobody ever asks the question that actually matters. Why does Peter sink? He steps out of the boat. He's fine. He's walking on water, same as his teacher. And then, he isn't. The text doesn't say the water got rougher. It doesn't say a wave knocked him down. It says something happened inside him first. So what if the water was never the point? What if this story has been hiding in plain sight, not about a lake in the Middle East, but about something happening behind your own eyes every single night you can't sleep? Stay with me. We're not leaving the page. Every claim I make, you'll be able to check yourself by the end of this. No leaps of faith required, just a closer look at what's actually written and what's actually in your skull. Read the storm story again. Slowly. It barely describes the lake. What it keeps circling back to is fear, the wind, the terror in the men's chests. Now put it next to the other version, the one in Mark, where the sea is raging, the disciples are sure they're finished, and Jesus says 3 words: peace, be still. And the water goes flat. Not because the weather changed, because a command went into it. This pattern isn't new with Jesus. Open the Psalms. There's a verse that says, God turns a storm into a calm, so the waves are stilled. Same image, centuries earlier. A churning sea. A calm that arrives the instant something steady speaks into it. So here's the question that should stop you cold. What in your life churns like an ocean and goes still the moment something calm speaks to it? You already know the answer. You felt it at 2 a.m. It's your own mind. But here's where it gets strange. Because that's just a metaphor, right? A nice turn of phrase preachers love? Not quite. There's something underneath this that almost nobody talks about. Something physical. Your brain does not sit in your skull like a rock in a bowl. It floats, suspended in a clear fluid called cerebrospinal fluid. Your doctor would call it CSF. I'd call it something simpler, brain water. And here's the detail that should genuinely unsettle you. Your brain weighs about 3 pounds in open air, but floating in that fluid, it presses down with the force of roughly 50 grams, the weight of a couple of coins in your palm. That's not me exaggerating for effect. That's in the Encyclopedia Britannica, in plain print that almost nobody reads. Medical reference texts describe it exactly this way. Your brain floats the way a body floats in the sea. And it gets stranger. Your body builds this water itself. There's a structure deep inside your brain called the choroid plexus, and its entire job is manufacturing this fluid, fresh, constantly. The whole supply gets replaced 3 to 4 times a day. Say that slowly. The sea inside your head tonight is not the same sea that was there this morning. There is a real current running through your skull right now as you listen to this. So now ask yourself, is it really a coincidence that the most famous water miracle in Scripture spends almost none of its words on weather, and nearly all of them on what's happening inside a man's head? I'm not claiming the gospel writers had a textbook. I'm asking you to notice something. The symbol and the science keep landing in the exact same place. And once you see it, the rest of the Bible starts looking different too. Go back to the very first page of Genesis. Before anything exists, before light, before land, the Spirit of God moves over the face of the waters. The whole story begins with something steady, hovering above a formless, churning deep. That's the same image as a calm man standing over a storm. Just move to the opening scene instead of the middle. There's a verse almost nobody quotes. Job says God walks upon the waves of the sea, written long before any gospel. Walking on water was already a picture of the divine, centuries before Galilee. So when Jesus does it, he isn't breaking physics for a magic trick. He's stepping into an image the entire Bible had already been building. And it isn't only the Bible. Ancient Egyptian cosmology describes a primordial water everything rises from. Across the world, contemplative traditions describe the goal of inner discipline as stilling the waves of the mind. Different languages, no contact with each other, same picture. When that many unconnected voices reach for the same image, you stop calling it coincidence. You start calling it a recurring human pattern, a way people across cultures have tried to describe something true about the inside of their own heads. Now here's the detail that should hit different. Peter doesn't sink because the water gives out. Read the actual order of events in the text. He sees the wind, he becomes afraid, and only then he begins to sink. Fear first, sinking second. You have lived this exact sequence. You're handling something hard, you're actually fine, standing on top of it. Then a thought arrives. What if this falls apart? And the second you grab onto it, something in your chest drops. Nothing in your circumstances changed. The only thing that moved was your attention. That is Peter. That is every bad night you've ever had. So why didn't anyone ever teach it to you this way? Here's something worth sitting with. Go to the end of Matthew's account. The disciples don't walk away from this story asking how to calm their own minds. They walk away falling down and saying, "Truly, you are the Son of God." That's the line the institution kept. That's the line that got preached for 2,000 years. Not, "Go and do this," but, "Kneel, because he did this and you can't." A miracle you're commanded to worship requires nothing further from you. A miracle that's actually a map requires you to walk it yourself. Guess which one builds a religion that needs you in the pew every Sunday, and which one sets you free the moment you understand it. I'm not telling you the worship was wrong. I'm telling you it was convenient. It's a lot easier to manage a congregation that's amazed than a congregation that's awake. So let's slow down. Because this is the part that actually matters. This story was never really asking whether a man once did something impossible on a lake far away. It's been describing something that happens inside your skull every single day. And for 2,000 years, you were handed the worship version instead of the working version. Here's a way to hold all of it together. Think of it as 3 pieces, all inside your own head. A sea, the fluid your brain rests in. A boat, your brain itself, riding on top of that water. And a storm, your own thinking, when fear gets into it and starts to churn. When your mind is calm, your awareness rides the surface, steady, above the noise. When fear takes the wheel and your thinking starts to crash, you drop beneath it. Same person, same water. The only variable is whether the mind is still or storming. And remember why a thing floats in the first place. It stays matched to the water around it. Level, unresisting. The instant something throws that balance off, it starts to go under. Staying afloat was never about overpowering the sea. It's about staying level with it. That's the difference between the man standing and the man sinking. And it's the difference between a story you're told to admire from a pew and a skill you were always allowed to take home. So here's what I'd ask you to actually do with this. Not believe, do. Tonight, find somewhere quiet. Sit down, close your eyes, notice your thoughts moving. That's your sea. You don't have to stop it. You couldn't if you tried. A thought rises, a worry, a memory, a fear. Let it rise, let it fall. Don't grab it, don't fight it. Just watch it roll past, the way you'd watch a wave from the shore. Rest your attention somewhere quiet. When the next wave pulls at you, and it will, you simply come back. Rise, fall, come back. That's the whole practice. That is what it physically feels like to stand on the surface instead of going under. And there's a real reason it works. When you stop feeding a fearful thought with your attention, your body's alarm system has nothing left to run on. You're not forcing the sea to be calm. You're just letting go of the wind. That is the exact thing Peter forgot for 1 second on the water. The moment he stopped feeding the fear, he could have stood again. So can you. Not on a lake, not by a miracle. Tonight, in a chair, by paying attention. Because maybe that's the real claim this story was always making. Not that the rules of water can be broken by the right man, but that the rules of your own mind can be learned by anyone willing to sit still long enough to notice them. The sea was never out there. It was always the one you've been carrying behind your own eyes. If this was the first time anyone showed you that, it won't be the last thing you find hiding in a story you thought you already knew. Subscribe, because the next one goes further.